Hey, Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad-Bhagavatam class from Canto 2, Chapter 5, and Text 11. We're fortunate this morning to have His Holiness Candramauli Swami to give the class. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribol. Glories to Prabhupada.
It's all yours, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yena Swarochi Sa Vishvam Rochitam Rochayam Yaham Yadarko Gir Yada Somo Yadarsha Graha Tarakaha. Translation. I create after the Lord's creation by his personal effulgence, known as the Brahma Jyoti. Just as when the sun manifests its fire, the moon, the firmament, and the influential planets and the twinkling stars also manifest their brightness. Could you read the purport?
Thank you very much. Lord Brahmaji said to Narada that his impression that Brahma was not the supreme authority in the creation was correct. Sometimes less intelligent men have the foolish impression that Brahma is the cause of all causes, but Narada wanted to clear the matter by the statements of Brahmaji, the supreme authority in the universe. As the decision of the Supreme Court of a state is final, similarly, the judgment of Brahmaji, the supreme authority in the universe, is final in the Vedic process of acquiring knowledge. As we have already affirmed in the previous verse, Naradaji was a liberated soul. Therefore, he was not one of the less intelligent men who accept a false god or gods in their own ways. He represented himself as less intelligent and yet intelligently presented a doubt to be cleared by the supreme authority so that the uninformed might take note of it and be rightly informed about the intricacies of the creation and the creator. In this verse, Brahmaji clears up the wrong impression held by the less intelligent and affirms that he creates the universal variegatedness after the creation by the glaring effulgence of Lord Sri Krishna. Brahmaji has also separately given this statement in the Samhita known as the Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, text 40, where he says, Yasha Prabha Pavavato Jagananda Koti, Koti Shesha Vasudadi Vibhuti Vinnam, Tad Brahma Nishkalam Anantam Asesha Bhutam, Govinda Madhupurisham Tamaham Bhajami. I serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental bodily effulgence, known as the Brahma Jyoti, which is unlimited, unfathomed, and all-pervasive, is the cause of the creation of unlimited number of planets, etc., with varieties of climates and specific conditions of life. The same statement is in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14, text 27. Lord Krishna is the background of the Brahma Jyoti. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. In the Nirukti or Vedic dictionary, the import of pratishta is mentioned as that which establishes. So the Brahma Jyoti is not independent or self-sufficient. Lord Sri Krishna is ultimately the creator of the Brahma Jyoti, mentioned in this verse as Swaruchisha, or the effulgence of the transcendental body of the Lord. This Brahma Jyoti is all-pervading, and all creation is made possible by its power. Therefore, the Vedic hymns declare that everything that exists is being sustained by the Brahma Jyoti. Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma. Therefore, the potent seed of all creation is the Brahma Jyoti, and the same Brahma Jyoti, unlimited and unfathomed, is established by the Lord. Therefore, the Lord Sri Krishna is ultimately the supreme cause of all creation. Aham Savasya Prabhava. One should not expect the Lord to create like a blacksmith with a hammer and other instruments. The Lord creates by his potencies. He has multifarious potencies. Parasya Shakti Vidadeva Shriyate. Just as the small seed of a banyan fruit, has the potency to create a big banyan tree, the Lord disseminates all varieties of seeds by his potent Brahmajyoti, Swarochisha. And the seeds are made to develop by the watering process of persons like Brahma. Brahma cannot create the seeds, but he can manifest the seed into a tree, just as a gardener helps plants and orchards to grow by the watering process. The example cited here of the sun is very appropriate. In the material world, the sun is the cause of all illumination, fire, electricity, the rays of the moon, etc. All luminaries in the sky are creations of the sun. The sun is the creation of the Brahmajyoti, and the Brahmajyoti is the effulgence of the Lord. Thus, the ultimate cause of creation is the Lord.
Umagyantimidandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatya De Satarine. Jai Shri Krishna Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo Matar Svarva Prabhartante Iti Matvav Bhajanti Mam Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha. I am the cause of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything comes from me. Those who are actually wise, those who have intelligence, in other words, those who are not envious, will engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So the Lord manifests his different functions through his different energies, but it's not that the energies are the source of the creation. Just like the rays of the sun may come and heat the earth, but the rays of the sun are not the cause of the heat of the earth. It's the sun itself which emanates the rays. So in the same way, here we're seeing that there are a class of people who worship Lord Brahma as the absolute principle. We saw that with Hiranyakashipu. When Hiranyakashipu, the great demon, wanted to get benedictions, he understood that Brahma was the supreme absolute principle. Therefore, he prayed to Lord Brahma and offered his austerities to Lord Brahma. Brahma appeared to him and said to Hiranyakashipu, get up, Hiranyakashipu, your austerities have become perfect. And then he offered him a benediction. And then Hiranyakashipu went on to say, I want the benediction of being immortal. Brahma reveals in this particular pastime, he says, I cannot give you that benediction because I am also under the influence of the time element. I am not immortal also. So there's another example, but the example here is that Brahmaji is being seen just like Hiranyakashipu saw, and others who are actually spiritualists who worship the Brahman effulgence as the absolute principle, think, based on the Shastras, that Brahma is the actual creator, but he is the secondary creator. He takes the intelligence given to him by Krishna and the ingredients, which are the material elements, and based on that, he formulates the different bodies of the living entities. So he is not the actual source, but he is the anga or limb or element, or what we might say the feature of the Lord's will to carry out the creation. So Narada, he wants to destroy this idea that Brahma is the actual source of creation. So he presents himself as not very intelligent and asks the question here. Now, of course, the question was asked in the verses previously. But here it says that Brahma reveals. He says, after the Lord's creation, then I put everything into place by his arrangement. So then in this statement in the Srimad-Bhagavatam establishes the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the source of Brahma, Shiva, all the Brahman effulgence, which is the unmanifested form of the Lord that pervades throughout creation, which includes all of the planets and all of the living entities in the Brahman effulgence. But these things are ultimately coming from Krishna himself. And he is mentioned in so many ways as the supreme source. Ishwara Parma Krishna, Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karna Karnam. That last line, Sarva Karna Karnam, means that out of all of the causes that manifest, he is the source of all of these causes. He is the supreme cause behind everything. Everything has two aspects to its existence. There is the immediate cause and the remote cause. Just like when a child is born from the mother, a person might think, well, the mother was the cause of the child coming into being. But she is the actual immediate cause. The remote cause is that the combination between father and mother have produced this child within the womb of the mother. So the father is actually the source of life and the mother is the deliverer of life. So when we see simply the external or the immediate cause, we sometimes think that is the actual cause. But we have to take knowledge from Shastra. Without taking knowledge from Shastra, we cannot understand what is actually the correct, or cannot come to the correct understanding. So Bhagavatam and other scriptures, such as what is it? What's the name of that scripture by Srila Rupa Goswami establishes this point very. The Brihad Bhagavatam, not Brihad Bhagavatam Rita, but Laghu Bhagavatam Rita. Laghu Bhagavatam Rita really goes into detail, explaining that Brahma, or Brahman, not Brahma, but Brahman, which is the energy of the Lord's transcendental body, is not the ultimate principle of existence which causes everything to unfold. It's Krishna himself. But persons who are not endowed with proper understanding or reinterpret the scriptures according to their own ideas, and also create ideas based on their own perceptions, simply cause problems in the understanding of the correct truth. Therefore, in order to destroy all of these false arguments, Narada, who is the supreme demigod, he's called Narada Rishi. He is he is the Rishi amongst the demigod. He is the source of. He is He is the principal demigod amongst all of the demigods. But he is the son of Lord Brahma, in the sense that Brahma is not a demigod, but Narada is. Brahma is coming from the body of the Lord himself. Tene Brahma Hida Adi Kapaye. So we might understand, we might question, why is all this knowledge important? Because there are those who want to change or reinterpret or give their own ideas about existence. Therefore, one has to follow scriptures, though the authorized scriptures, and those scriptures that are foundational in understanding the nature of the absolute truth, which are the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and all those acharyas who give the commentary on Bhagavatam in order for people to understand it in a more simplified way, such as Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami. These two particularly have delved deeply into these topics and unearthed the deeper understandings of how Krishna is the source and how everything works in connection to him. Not only that we say, well, everything comes from Krishna. No, but how does it come from Krishna? How does he manifest all of these different energies that carry out his will, both in his leelas and in his tattvas in the process of creation? So these things should be known by the devotees, and not that we remain, well, yeah, we accept Krishna as the source and that's all. But if someone asks you, how do you know? Then what will you say? You say, well, I heard from my spiritual master. That's nice, and that's also true. But then again, they'll say, well, I heard from my spiritual master differently. And therefore you find yourself unable to explain. So we should understand this knowledge. It might seem a little intellectual or a little bit complex, but it must be known in order for us to really understand clearly and have a complete attachment that Krishna is, in all aspects of existence, the source of everything. Otherwise, we might think, oh, everything comes from an incarnation of Krishna, an energy of Krishna, or the energies are working in conjunction with each other and creating manifestations of creations. So there is so many wrong ideas about how things ultimately unfold. There are more wrong ideas. There's only one right idea, and that is how Krishna does everything through his different energies. That's confirmed here. Parasya Shakti Vihaya Suyate Swabhaviki Jnanam Balakriya Cha. This is from the Sweta Swatara Upanishads. The Upanishads are the Vedas. The Vedas are divided in Shruti and Smriti. Shruti is actually the Vedas, and Smriti is the commentary on the Shrutis to establish the principles for complete understanding, because the Shrutis are too difficult to understand. But the Upanishads are part of the Shrutis, and it gives direct understanding that the energies of the Lord work perfectly in conjunction with the will of the Lord. And therefore they can do so many things because they are directed by the Lord. Just like says here, the sun sets up the energy which is the energy that nourishes all planets in the universe. But where does the sun get its energy? From the Brahma Jyoti. And the Brahma Jyoti is the transcendental effulgence of the body of the Lord. But where does that come from? It comes from the Lord itself. It's part of his transcendental nature. And in the Isha Upanishads, there is a prayer towards the Lord saying, "My dear Lord, please remove your effulgence so I can see you as the transcendental personality of Godhead." So people see the glaring effulgence, the Brahmavadis, and even others, the Gyanis who are adept in the process of Gyan, come to the realization that ultimately the Brahma Jyoti is the source of all existence. But behind that Brahma Jyoti is Krishna himself, whose transcendental body is the Brahma Jyoti. And so therefore, it's important to understand as devotees how everything works. Therefore, we have to have working knowledge of how creation works, because it is quite complex and it's also quite detailed. But still, if you study this, you'll find it is amazing how everything works in such a complicated yet precise way. The complexity is there, but the precision of the complexity is so systematic and so picturesque in its systematic expansion that one starts to marvel just how the creation is working. And it's also understood that every element in creation is always working under the will of the Lord. So you might say, well, how does that work in the material energy? When the material energy, people take the material energy and use it against the Lord or to become separate from the Lord. Yes, that's true. But that material energy has a built-in characteristic that those who work against it are destroyed by that same energy, and therefore the energy still works in its ideal capacity according to the will of the Lord, and it makes corrections in those who deviate according to the Lord's plan for activity and for ultimately devotion. So it's all very precise in Srimad-Bhagavatam here. This chapter is called The Process of Creation. Some of you might be a little bit overwhelmed by the details, but if you study this carefully, and it's also referenced here, the Brahma Samhita is referenced. The Brahma Samhita is also spoken by Lord Brahma himself. And it also gives the whole picture of how everything unfolds down to the smallest, tiny little living entity in creation. Okay, we can stop there and see if there's any discussion.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for a very, very wonderful lecture about how this creation comes about. I'm going to stop sharing now. And devotees, please switch on your cameras. And Sridevi has raised her hand already. So Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Parikshit Prabhu. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, when we see the creation description and we read at other places, it is mentioned that the Lord agitates the pradhan, or the undifferentiated material mass, and that's agitation. In that agitation, the seeds of the living entities are planted, and then creation takes place, and so on. Nowhere at least till now, I heard that the Brahma Jyoti is the cause of creation. So how can we understand these two truths, which seem contradictory, but I'm sure there's a common link?
That glance of the Lord is the Brahma Jyoti.
Oh.
And in that glance, there are three elements: the living entities who are in the body of the Lord, the time factor, and Lord Shiva himself. And when that glance hits the pradhan, the unmanifested energies, which are in a immovable state, become activated. But that doesn't bring about creation. Brahma, then the Lord expands into Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, and then from there Brahma comes. And Brahma's service is to take all of those ingredients and the living entities and place them in different bodies in different forms according to their karma from the last manifestation. So yeah, that glance is the energy of the Lord. We can call it the Brahma Jyoti. It is it's coming from the bodily rays of the Lord. Mm-hmm. But in there, the living entities are there. The time factor is there, which activates the material energy, because in the material energy, the fine time factor exists. In the spiritual world, time factor is not there. There's no question of time. And then Lord Shiva is also there. He's called the father of all living entities. And he assists in the process of creation also. And that's where Advaita Charya is also a manifestation of Mahavishnu, but also a combination of Mahavishnu and Lord Shiva in one personality. That is Advaita Charya. So he has the mood of Lord Shiva, which is compassion towards the living entities. And he also is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the element, the source of creation also.
It is a bit overwhelming and difficult for, my brain at least to wrap around. So is it that repeated reading will help, Guru Maharaj?
Oh, what was the question? What will help?
Repeatedly reading.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If you read the Brahma Samhita, a lot of the explanations are there. The second canto, which we are reading, the explanations are there, especially this chapter. And there's elements of creation in the third canto also. Creation there's two manifestations of creation. There is the initial creation and the sub-creation. The sub-creation is the material world, is the manifestation of how the living entities manifest within the material world. That's Brahma's duty directly. The original source of creation is Krishna. It's just like a president will have so many cabinet members and ministers, but he doesn't do everything. He empowers the members of his cabinet to carry out his will for the functioning of the state. But he is the source behind that. So the ministers are like the energy of the president. So in the same way, Brahma is one of the elements to carry out the Lord's will for creation.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, very much. I have a question. I also just want a little bit of explanation, still about the creation. I understand Brahma Jyoti is the source, the Lord's effulgent rays. You've explained it very, very nicely. I just want to see where Mahavishnu fits into this from the Mahatattva. I'm thinking, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking that it's through the Lord that the Mahatattva comes to be, and the unmanifested, that's the Mahatattva. And then, can you explain from that point how Mahavishnu gets into it? We know what happens, the universe has come from him, but from the Mahatattva.
Mahavishnu is the initial manifestation of the Supreme Lord for creation. It's from Mahavishnu that everything comes as far as the creative existence. So Mahavishnu is an expansion of Shankarshan in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
He's also called Karanarnasaya Vishnu also. It's another name for Mahavishnu. He's the one, he glances over onto the Mahatattva. He creates the Lord creates the Mahatattva, or the Pradhan. There's two phases. There's the Pradhan and then there's the Mahatattva. The Pradhan is the original, and the Mahatattva is the activated part of the ingredients that make up the creation. So Mahavishnu is the person who initiates the whole thing. And he's an expansion of Sankarshan, who is an expansion of Lord Narayan, who is an expansion of the Chaturvyuha, which includes Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna. There's two manifestations of the what is it? The Chaturvyuha.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the Chaturvyuha, the first Chaturvyuha actually comes from Lord Balaram. And Balaram manifests himself in the creative force as the source coming from Lord Krishna. So all this is explained in Brahma Samhita.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you don't know that Krishna is the source of everything, then if you're reading the 10th canto and you hear about Krishna as being that child who passes urine on the floor, disobeys his mother, plays pranks on his girlfriends, steals butter, and causes mischief, you won't believe that that same personality is the Supreme Lord. You have to connect these two personalities and their different manifestations of existence as being the same personality. Therefore, Bhagavatam doesn't start off with Leela, it starts off with all of these complex understandings of the nature of creation in the Lord's manifestation of its different forms. Excuse me. But Krishna is the source of everything. And that same Krishna is that playful little boy, or that playful personality, who is the cynosure of all the residents of Vrindavan. Therefore, people who jump to the 10th canto can't understand Krishna because they have no understand of his actual all-powerful nature, which he does not exhibit in his personality as Krishna. Krishna in the Leelas of Vrindavan. And that's secondary. He's not so much interested. Actually, Krishna doesn't touch all of these creative aspects. He just starts the process going through his expansions, and they take care of everything. All he does is exchange loving relationships with his devotees in Vrindavan. That's Krishna. He's not involved with all of these complicated creative aspects, but he initiates the whole thing through his energies and through his will. I'll be right back. I just need a slight break here.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram. I was actually thinking that here comes my wonderful.
Yeah, Srila Prabhupada gives a very easy to understand analogy or example. He says a very rich man, he owns corporations and he has so many employees and so much, riches at his expense. But what does he do? He's out there playing golf with his friends, and then everybody else is carrying out his will. He makes a few phone calls here and there, and everything is done. He doesn't do anything himself. Yep. Same with Krishna. He simply wills something to happen, and it happens. But sometimes he comes to the material world and he kills some demons, but that's secondary. He comes to enliven his devotees. But while he's here, he just does a little house cleaning too. And that's fun for him. And when he kills demons, he's always smiling. Another form of his way of playing. Kill a few demons here and there. So Krishna doesn't work hard at all. He simply is enjoying. That's all. He's just enjoying. That's all he does is enjoy. His energy do all the work. So.
Hare Krishna. So, there's a couple of questions in the chat since nobody's raised their hand yet. One's from Pavni. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, like you said, Lord Shiva helps in creation. Can you elaborate on this? Because I heard that his role is to help in destruction. That's the question.
Yeah, but he's also considered the father of all living entities. He's the second super soul. There are three persons that know the hearts of all living beings. That is Krishna in the heart as a super soul, Lord Shiva, and Yamaraj. These three persons know the activities of all living entities in the created world. So Shiva is called the father of all living entities. And he's compassionate. He manifests himself in this world to assist the Lord in preaching Krishna consciousness, or expanding Krishna consciousness. Therefore, when Lord Chaitanya came, he came as a Dvaitacharya. He's Sada Shiva. He's also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but manifested as a demigod for the sake of giving, for the sake of destruction. Yes, he is in charge of destruction, but he's also compassionate and also preaches Krishna consciousness in the form of a Dvaitacharya.
Okay. Well, a little bit clarity here. So you said there are three personalities in every individual. The super soul, the individual soul, definitely. I think I heard you mention Yamaraj, or was it Shiva that you wanted? I don't know.
No, there's three persons who know the hearts of all living beings.
Oh, who know the hearts? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shiva, Yamaraj, and Krishna manifested within the heart as super soul. Yamaraj has a business. He has to know these so he can give out the results of their activities after they depart the body.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's clear to me now. So there is another question from Manisha. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. If a soul goes to Brahma Jyoti, how long can it stay there? Because there's no happiness there, the soul must face difficulty. After falling from there, does the soul go to higher planets or lower planets?
The
Okay.
soul can, from the Brahma Jyoti, can go up or it can go down. If it adopts the activities of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, then it could raise himself up to the spiritual realm, the Vaikuntha realm, and ultimately the realm of Vrindavan. Well, many of the souls that attain the Brahma Jyoti are impersonalists, and therefore, after spending a delegated amount of time in the Brahma Jyoti, as it says, what is that verse? It's let me see. It's from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, 10th canto. I think I have the reference here. Let me see if I can find it. Should be able to find it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 32. You can turn to that verse. Ten two 32. This is a very key verse. Yene ravindaksha vimuktamaninas tvaasta bhava avasura buddhayaha aruna krichena param padam tata padantiyado nadritya yusvam ahangrayaha. Someone might say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord, there are those who are not devotees but who have accepted a different process for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, but their intelligence is impure, they fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. Aside from devotees, there are many other non-devotees, such as the karmis, the jnanis, the yogis, the philanthropists, the yatrists, politicians, and persons in voidis. There are many varieties of non-devotees who have their respective ways of liberation, but simply because they do not know the shelter of the Lord's full lotus feet, although they falsely think that they have been liberated and elevated to the highest position, they fall down. Vadanti yada. As clearly stated by the Lord himself, Asradanam Purusho Dharmasya Param Tapa Aprapyamam Nivartante Mrityu Samsarda Vartmani. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. Doesn't matter whether one is a karmi, jnani, yogi, philanthropist, politician, whatever. If you have no love for the lotus feet of the Lord, one falls down. This is the verdict given by Lord Brahma in this verse. So there's many of these persons, they accept these other processes for elevation, and they think they have achieved the highest. But in that Brahma Jyoti, or in that liberated stage, they don't engage in any devotional service. So padanti yada, they fall down again after some time, because they have no regard for the lotus feet of the Lord, or they're not interested in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So yeah. So Prabhupada uses a wide range of personalities who think themselves have achieved perfection in life. But ultimately, whatever state that they attain, they lose. But it also mentions that those who are Brahmavadis, who attain to the unmanifested, we say, in a liberated form into the Brahma Jyoti, if they take the devotional service, they can rise themselves up to the spiritual world. And that is mentioned wherein the four Kumaras, who are Brahmavadis, when they smelt the sandalwood paste and the tulsi leaves that were offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, they gave up their realization of Brahman and took to Bhagavan realization. So there's those who go through the process naturally and attain perfection, and those who get stuck on the Brahma Jyoti and think that, or even the super soul realization, thinking that is the perfection. Those are the yogis, the jnanis, the impersonalists, like that.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. I'm going to stop sharing again.
Is that satisfying, Patni?
Maybe you can leave a chat.
You have go back to the gallery again. Patni, is that okay?
Pavni, Guru Maharaj is asking you.
Did she ask the question, Pavni?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Balakrishna, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. All glories to Vaishnavas everywhere. Guru Maharaj, I am very blessed to be in Krishna consciousness, but I came very late to the party. I've been doing this for about 18 months or so. When I was younger, I was exposed to some kinds of spirituality. You know, at 20, I even had a guru, a local guy, and he would teach me some mantras and he would ask me to do some stuff and I would do it. And many of these things were time limited, Maharaj. They'll ask me to do something and you would do it for a couple of hours, then you were free to go watch cricket. You know what I mean? So it was very time limited kind of things and very, very narrow. Now we do it 24 hours a day. Right now, I have a job, I'm juggling things, and this is going, so I'm trying to find the time for everything. So my question is, Maharaj, why is it 24 hours? And I'm even thinking, if I'm retired, how would I fill 24 hours a day with, would I do extra japa? Would I do extra reading? What would I do, Maharaj?
Well, you don't start off with 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start off with a reasonable amount of time that you give to spiritual activities. And then as you develop a taste and you start making progress, it is natural, and I emphasize that point, it is natural, you're going to want to do more. Develop a higher taste. And as that taste comes, you become eager to serve more, to associate more, to chant more, to understand more. In other words, spiritual is always expanding. Whereas material can expand to a certain limit, and then ultimately it starts going back down because it's limited, but spiritual is unlimited. So the scriptures say, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharmo, Yato Bhakti Ahoksaje, Hoitu Kiya Priyata, Yayatma Supersedati. And so Ahaitu Kiya Priyata means unmotivated and uninterrupted. So the soul, you, the spiritual being, can only be satisfied completely when it is fully absorbed in Krishna constantly. That's the soul's nature. The soul's nature is like that. And so to awaken that soul's nature is the process of bhakti. And when one becomes fully absorbed in devotional activities, then one is on the liberated or transcendental platform, spiritual. So we follow the process, and gradually through the process, as we become purified, more of the soul's pure nature becomes revealed into the mind, and the mind starts directing itself more towards spiritual activities. So 24 hours a day is the soul's nature.
It's wonderful to hear, Maharaj. Yes,
that's you.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Not 23 hours and 59 minutes.
Yeah. I was trying to see if I can make some time for football, Maharaj. Little bit of time.
I'm not going to say anything.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. But there's another question, actually a number of questions in the chat from the same person. Rasa Vilasini Radha Mataji is saying, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please Maharaj, kindly clarify these 3 points as I sometimes get confused. Point number 1, when Lord Shiva appears from Lord Vishnu. Number 2, when Lord Shiva appears from Lord Brahma. And then 3, the Shiva residing in Kailash and the 12 Rudras. How are they all different from each other? Then he has a follow-up question also, which is...
The Shiva that appears from Lord Vishnu is Sadashiva. And that Sadashiva has a planet in the spiritual world. He is the spiritual manifestation of the pure Shiva. The Shivas, there is a Shiva in every universe, just like there's a Brahma in every universe. So that Shiva in every universe comes by way of through Lord Brahma, and it's manifested as the Rudra form of the Lord, like that. The Rudra form of Lord Shiva. So there's the original Shiva, and then there's Shivas in all of the different universes. And what was the last one? Kailash.
Yes, with the 12 Rudras.
Yeah, that's the Shiva within this particular universe, which is outside of the universe, like that. So there's a planet called Kailash.
Okay, and then the follow-up question is, when Lord Shiva appeared from Lord Vishnu, did Lakshmi Devi also have any role in this?
Yeah, big role. That appearance was a glance, as I mentioned. And Lakshmi, in the form of Ramadevi, her name is Ramadevi in that manifestation, she carried that glance of Mahavishnu, which contained the living entities, Lord Shiva, and the time factor to the Pradhan. So here we get into male-female connection. So we see in this material world, in order to produce a child, there has to be male and female. So Krishna uses his internal energy in the form of Ramadevi to assist him, and she takes that energy. The Pradhan is like the womb, and the glance is like semen coming from the father, analogous with Lord Vishnu's glance. So you can see the analogy of how birth takes place in this material world when you connect it to the original source of existence, Lord Mahavishnu and Ramadevi. And of course, the Pradhan also. The Pradhan is like the womb. Just like in the womb of the mother contains all of the ingredients that make up the child's body. But those ingredients are not activated until the semen of the father fertilizes the womb. Then the womb becomes activated, and then all of these ingredients formulate into the body of a living being. Like that. So in the same way, that same thing is happening on the spirit, on the highest level, and manifested on this level too. Pretty far out, huh?
Yeah. So Ramadevi is the one that transports what would take place in the Pradhan then to the Pradhan.
Yeah.
Right.
The Lord doesn't need her help, but he accepts it.
Was any other questions? Last questions? Why?
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Yes,
We're breaking up a
so
little
much for
bit.
clarifying that. Hare Krishna. Please accept my message.
Nice questions, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for clarifying my doubts. Thank you.
Any final questions? All right. Thank you all for being so active in this in terms of hearing and asking questions about it. And we can wrap our minds around. It's a little bit easier now, but Maharaj explains things. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Maharaj, do you have time to do some japa?
Not much time, but sometime.